said, "Do you know what hurts the most? Not when strangers betray you, but when your own family breaks your trust." Pause. The story begins with a son named Daniel, a young man who grew up in a small town with nothing more valuable than his father's love and wisdom. His father, a hard-working farmer, had always promised him one thing: "This land will be yours one day, my son. These fields, this soil, they carry not only our blood but our future." Daniel believed in those words like gospel. Every morning, he walked with his father through the fields, feeling the damp soil between his fingers, listening to his father's voice teaching him about patience, about planting seeds not only in the earth, but in life itself. His father was not a rich man, but he was a man of honor. And to Daniel, that honor was worth more than gold. Moved. The family was small: Daniel, his father, his mother, and his uncle Richard, his father's younger brother. Uncle Richard was different. Where Daniel's father was honest and humble, Richard was ambitious and greedy. He looked at the land not as a home, but as wealth to be sold, divided, and exploited. Daniel always felt a distance between himself and his uncle, but he never imagined how deep Richard's hunger could go. Pause. Time passed, and as Daniel grew older, so did his father. Illness crept into his life quietly, like a shadow at dusk. Lying on his bed one evening, with Daniel by his side, his father took his hand and said, "Sad, promise me, no matter what happens, you will take care of this land. It is your inheritance, your right, and your responsibility. Do not let anyone take it from you." Tears welled up in Daniel's eyes. He nodded, unable to speak. That night, he felt the weight of not just land, but legacy, resting on his shoulders. Within weeks, his father passed away, leaving behind not just a grieving family, but a fragile promise. Emotional. The funeral was heavy with sorrow. Neighbors came, family gathered, and Daniel stood silently as people whispered prayers. But behind the tears, Richard's eyes were already calculating. While Daniel's heart broke with loss, his uncle's heart burned with greed. In the days that followed, Daniel tried to hold on to his father's memory. He worked the fields tirelessly, trying to honor his father's words. But whispers started to spread. Rumors that the land wasn't his, that Richard had documents claiming otherwise. At first, Daniel laughed it off. Impossible. My father would never allow that. But the rumors grew louder. Angry. One morning, Daniel was summoned to a lawyer's office. Sitting across from him, Richard smirked as forged papers were laid out on the table. The documents claimed that Daniel's father had transferred the land to Richard before his death. Daniel's hands shook as he held the papers. He recognized the handwriting, but it wasn't his father's. It was a lie, a cruel, deliberate betrayal. Sad. "This can't be real," Daniel whispered, his voice cracking. "My father promised this to me. He gave me his word." But Richard leaned forward, his voice sharp like a knife, angry. "Promises mean nothing without proof." "And I have the proof." Daniel's world shattered. The soil his father had walked on, the land he had nurtured with love, was being ripped from his hands by his own blood. It wasn't a stranger stealing his future. It was his uncle. His family moved. That night, Daniel sat alone on the field, staring at the stars. He felt his father's absence more than ever. The betrayal burned like fire in his chest. He thought of leaving, of abandoning it all. But then he remembered his father's last words. "Do not let anyone take it from you." Pause. His father's voice became his strength. Though broken, Daniel resolved. This was not the end. Angry. The days that followed were a battlefield. Richard had money, lawyers, and influence on his side. Daniel had nothing but his truth and his father's memory. Friends turned away, afraid to stand against Richard. Relatives whispered behind closed doors, some even siding with Richard for the chance of favor. Daniel found himself completely alone. Sad nights became heavier. He often sat in his empty house, staring at the walls, replaying every moment with his father. The laughter, the lessons, the dreams they shared. He asked himself, why? Why would my own family do this to me? The pain of betrayal is sharper than any blade. But Daniel didn't give up. Determined, he searched for clues, for any evidence that could expose the forgery. He visited old friends of his father, neighbors who knew the truth. He combed through records, letters, even old diaries. For weeks, nothing surfaced. Yet, he held on, remembering his father's teachings. Patience, my son. Seeds take time to grow. Moved. Finally, one evening, while digging through an old wooden chest his father had kept locked away, Daniel found a small bundle of letters. Among them was one written by his father, dated just weeks before his death. In it, his father had clearly stated that the land was to remain with Daniel, and that no one, not even Richard, had any right to it. Daniel's heart pounded as he held the letter close. This was it. This was the seed of truth. But even with proof, he knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Richard would fight back with everything he had. Pause. The courtroom became Daniel's battleground. Standing across from his uncle, he felt the weight of his father's promise on his shoulders. Richard's lawyers laughed, ridiculed, and tried to tear him apart. But Daniel's voice didn't tremble. Determined, this land is not just soil. It is my father's legacy, his promise to me. And no forged paper can erase that. The judge listened, the evidence was presented, and slowly the truth began to shine. Richard's confidence cracked as witnesses testified, as handwriting experts declared the signatures false, as the letter from Daniel's father spoke louder than Richard's lies. Soft. And then the verdict came. Justice was delivered. The land was returned to Daniel. The betrayal was exposed, and Richard's greed was laid bare for the world to see. Tears filled Daniel's eyes as he walked back into his fields, feeling the soil once more. Relieved. It wasn't just land he had regained. It was his father's honor, his own strength, and his belief in truth. Soft. Looking at the horizon, Daniel whispered, "I kept my promise, Father. No one could take it from me." Soft. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to The Silent Clause. Like, share, and comment to support us. Your support means everything,